let's talk here, because everyone's heard about him and heard the sophistry in and around the personality, but let's talk about where he sits in frankly, the pyramid of MAGA. I would suggest that he's right up there with a Steve Bannon. He is that, he was that influential. He was actually tasked by the Trump campaign in 2024 with getting out the vote in the key swing states. And guess what? He delivered. He delivered new voters, and that delivered the presidency. So this guy wasn't just a podcaster, wasn't an influencer, wasn't a provocateur. He was also a deep, deep, deep participant in the MAGA movement.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think there's many podcasters that would get the flags flown at half-mast at the White House, and that's how influential Charlie Kirk was. And I think one of the reasons that a lot of people have been kind of playing catch-up on this is that he was really big among Gen Z, and that was his big strength. When he did these speeches on campus, when he did these debates and brought people out to discuss ideas, defend them, what he was doing was really empowering people who might be quietly feeling like they agreed with him to have those conversations, to know that they could put their perspective forward and that there were people that thought like him. I mean, how many people could pull a crowd out of an election cycle of 3,000 people at the University of Utah? And we saw that in the 2024 election. The youth vote was swung very favourably in Trump's favour. And normally that does go to the Democrats. And so we've been looking at, I was just looking at this before, among young men, Donald Trump won 56% of the vote, and they saw a 24% swing among young people in Michigan. That was the biggest swing they saw for young people in those swing states, but every swing state swung towards Trump. And a lot of that was down to Charlie Kirk and the conversations that he started and the pull he had on social media. I think we can't underestimate how viral those videos went and how influential he was around youth discussion of politics. Not many people get parodied in South Park. And he had a whole episode to him just a few weeks ago. And seriously, that is
100%.
Huge influence in the political discourse.
100%. And this is the point, right? So in the same way that the late 1980s, so let's sort of say mid-80s to mid-90s, the explosion of talk radio was one of the things that absolutely pushed Reagan for the two terms and then Bush, right? The world of social media, we certainly know, you can point as much as people want to say a Rogan, Kirk and plenty of others, but principally Kirk, was punching out video after video after video, day after day after day, week after week, month after month after month. And in many ways, most people's first exposure to him would be that he went into the belly of the beast, which is a university, a college, normally a lefty place, and to look people in the eye and, be a smart-ass about it sometimes, but get into the face and argue the basic logical lack thereof. And yes, turn it into a bit of a performance. But I've got to say, it sort of sent a message back through the culture that I'm not going to say that conservatism was the new punk, but the sacred cows had become the left, not the pearl clutches of the sort of people who were worried about Bart Simpson saying, eat your shorts on television.
Yeah, and I think anyone, regardless of where you sit on the political spectrum, we've all felt like that, where you get shouted down by someone and you don't feel like you have an opportunity to be heard, and you feel like if you do put that perspective forward, you're going to be punished more than the person shouting you down and not letting you speak. And I was reading up on Charlie Kirk after he was on South Park, because I've seen so many of his clips, and they do start those conversations where you say, I don't agree with him on that. And you start debating with your friends or your family saying, well, I would have said this, I would have said that. But apparently he did a tour in the UK and it was a lot less successful because the students there were better at debating, and they do more of that, and they have that more contested school of ideas. And apparently in the US it was really just shooting fish in a barrel, and he was always accused of heavily editing. I don't think anyone in the media is going to start accuse anyone of editing, because we all do it, but that's how you get the information out. That's how you get those viral clicks. And really what he did was just ask questions, interrogate people's ideas, and if they hadn't done it themselves, they weren't in a very good position to mount their case.
Now, I want to talk about, who knows where this goes, all right? The reality is that America has been through many moments, and you have reported on those many moments where those of us in Australia, with the distance of Australia and the history of Australia, say, but surely this is the moment that. My perspective from this far away is, no, it isn't. It never is. It is also not the sign of a freshly or deeply divided country. they had a civil war. There was contested elections in 1960. 2000, of course, came down to the Supreme Court. It is not new that the joint is split, but whether it's split down the middle or side to side or gendered or race, well, then that's where things start to get more complicated. And I want to talk about some of the reaction that has happened on the right, where I have heard people like Steve Bannon say that Charlie Kirk, who was a colleague of his, they worked on the same sort of internet station, basically, back-to-back shows, says that he is a casualty of war. Now, that's a pretty full-on thing to say about how do you respond to a casualty of war. To others, like Greg Gutfeld on Fox, who said that, people have been woken the F up to what, I don't know. My suggestion is that but no one will listen, of course, is that you need to use the moment to prove that you are better than the people who did this, not to exact revenge for it, because then it's a cycle that never ends. And we have seen many conflicts and many wars where it's your justification for doing something worse is because they did this to me first.
Oh, absolutely. And I think there will be people out there that want retribution for this. And I think whoever did do this deserves every bit of punishment that is available under the law. And I know the Utah governor was suggesting the death penalty. I don't think many people are going to shed a tear if that comes to pass. What I think, really need to focus on is the fact that Charlie Kirk, at the end of the day, he believed in freedom of speech, and that's exactly why he did everything. You can't underestimate how horrifying it is to see a person advocating for freedom of speech and going out there and talking to real people, literally being shot in the neck to be silenced. But I think that has to be the response here, to not be silenced. And that's where the risk is, that people stop speaking out, they stop going out in public. And it is scary in America. Guns are a real problem. They are a real issue when you go to public events like this. I always have it in the back of my head. I was thinking if I'd been at that rally, I would have been probably at the back, sorry, not a rally, event. I would have been on one of the back balconies to get out quickly, because it is just one of those realities that you live with here. But the political violence in particular it has become more frequent. I mean, we've had 2 assassination attempts on Donald Trump. We've had lawmakers in Minnesota shot down in their homes. And you can blame social media. It's certainly fuel on the fire. There's always been this kind of divisiveness in America, but there is just kind of this growing sense of frustration that people aren't feeling heard. And that's exactly what Charlie Kirk was trying to do. So I think that has to be the response to this, is to just keep talking and keep defending freedom of speech.
Absolutely. We'll practice that in a moment's time. Last one here. To the people who are watching us, who may be from Western Australia, like your good self, or from all over the rest of the country, who might go, hang on, Sky News, why do they keep talking about this one bloke? Why have they spoken about him all day? Why have people become emotional? What would you say to those who know it's a big deal, but what would you say to them about why it is such an emotional thing for those who get it, for those who see it, and for those who understand the impact of this bloke?
I would say it's such a violent end to such a noble cause, to be just promoting freedom of speech, that he was a lightning rod for young people. Revolutions tend to start with young people, and he was such a central figure in that. As you said at the very beginning, he was extremely influential among the MAGA movement. He didn't let up in his support of it in that time, and the Trump administration's kept very careful note of everyone who dropped off the radar and wanted to come back once he was on the up. And he has had personal friendships with so many people at the top. He had a direct line to Trump, he had a direct line to Vance, he had a direct line to all the Trump children, all the big anchors at Fox, all the big commentators. He was a galvanizing force over the years. And he's been a fixture. And so every single conservative voice in America right now is second guessing themselves, because they know, I can't necessarily go out in public to these events because what if I'm the next target? We don't know who this person was. And so this is an absolutely defining moment. I completely agree with you. America's had an actual civil war. This is the kind of thing that simmers in the US. They've always kind of had a strong contention of beliefs and ideas, but this is a really seismic event.
Well, and it's a perfect bookends to talk about this with you and then with Megyn Kelly a little bit later, because she literally was planning on going on the road, and one of the people she was going on the road with was Charlie Kirk. She wasn't thinking about, security to a degree, but not the degree and whether it happens at all. My assumption is that she, like many others, will steel themselves and go back out there and get involved in that debate, because that is the way, as you say, to defeat those forces who seek to silence. Annelise, so good to see you. I look forward to seeing you very soon. You're looking wonderful as always, and we'll talk to you very soon.
Thank you.
All right, we love her.